Ay. Ayan, so once again class, good afternoon. So ang itatakal po natin ngayon is yung presentation in relation po sa milk. So kung babasahin niyo yung PowerPoint presentation ko, download na lang natin to para mas mahal. Kung babasahin niyo po yung presentation nung before pandemic, di hamak po class na mas ano siya, mas madami. So, because of the pandemic, mas pinaiksi. Kaya if you really want to know more, make sure na basahin niyo yung PowerPoint presentation before the pandemic. Okay? Kasi yun yung mas complete. Ito naman, this is just the required topic na kailangan kong i-discuss sa inyo. Okay? So once again, welcome to Mga Taram National High School, Senior High School, and welcome to Accountancy and Business Management. So, okay. Tawag doon. Ito dapat yung i-discuss ko kasi yung both online and maraming sobrang busy, kumbaga. Okay? So what is your expectations class? Dito sa subject natin. Mabuti ako kasi yung iba hindi nagbabasa, yung iba hindi nakapanood ng video para at least makompare natin yung kung ano man ang na-miss natin, ha?
Yung gagawin ko sa'yo kanina. Naka 20 lang binayad mo, sinuklihan kita ng 20.
Ang 20 ka.
Ay, ama no! 50 binigay mo. 50 akin, nuklihan pa ito.
Okay, yung 20 na yan. Yung sukling 20 naririnig namin. Nawala na tuloy ako. We cannot minimize. Okay. So this is a 237 slides. So lahat na po ito is tinatakal na. Kaya naman yung mag-share screen. Yan. Meron na?
Opo.
Salamat. Sabihin nyo class kapag matatapos na, kung may timer siya para at least makagawa ulit tayo ng link. Okay? So anyway, welcome to Mga Taram National High School, ABM Strand. So of course, I will be your subject teacher for today's topic, FABM1. So what is your expectations in this subject class? Hindi ko kasi narinig yung feedback niyo noon. At wala pa rin akong pinapagawang activity sa inyo. Kaya expect sa mga dadagsang activities. Kasi mahirap magbigay ng activities na hindi mo pa nadidiscuss ng maayos. Kahit pa sabihin nanood kayo ng video. So what is your expectations? So 42 pa lang. Nasaan kaya yung ibang kaklase ninyo? 60 plus tayo, remember? Secretary of the class, will you please check the attendance of the baker? Para ma-follow up ko kagad sa parents ang mga hindi. Same din kung may baro na pumasok, ha. Kindly check the attendance ng mga uma-attend sa akin online. Anyone from the class, what is your expectations in our subject? Hello? Ine-expect mo bang madali ang subject? Ine-expect nyo bang papasa kayo? For your information, may mga binagsak or kung hindi man bagsak, 75 ang grade sa akin sa FAB1, FAB2. Okay? Marami pong naka-line of 7 sa akin. You can ask the grade 12. Expectations. Wala kayong na-expect? So, kung wala kayong na-expect, ako na lang ma-expectations. I expect you to always attend online, especially kapag may online session tayo. Kung wala naman tayong online session, I hope sinusunod nyo yung payo ko na, for example, you need to read this PowerPoint, watch this video, memorize the accounting title. So, kung mapapansin nyo po, lahat ng materials, sinend ko na sa G-class ninyo. Nang sa ganon, mas marami yung time ninyo sa pagbabasa kasi kailangan po talaga dito ang more on memorization and understanding, especially the accounting titles. Kasi kung paggamit pa lang na accounting titles at saan siya major accounts belong, nalilito ka na. Then automatic, once na pumunta na po tayo sa completion of the accounting cycle, which is journalizing and adjusting entries, mga ganon, preparation of financial statements, analysis, hindi ka makaka-move on. One of the things na mahirap po is yung adjusting entry. Pero kung sa una pa lang journalizing, hirap ka na, expect mo na talagang mahihirapan ka. Okay? So, let's start. So, by the end of this session, marami akong topic na itatakal ha, kasi nga, di ba may mga na-miss tayo. Supposed to be, this is just for week 1. Although meron naman ako pinanood sa inyo na video, syempre iba pa rin kapag ako yung nag-explain. Okay? So, supposed to be nasa week 1, 2, 3, and 4. Hopefully, matakal ko yun ngayon. Okay? Pero ang coverage ng inyong summative test will be week 1 and week 2. The next week naman, yung week 3 at week 4. Okay? So anyway, you should be able to define accounting, describe the nature of accounting, explain the functions of accounting in business, and narrate the history, origin of accounting. So what is accounting class? Accounting is the process of identifying, recording, and communicating economic events of an organization to interested users. This is according to Wigan, J. et al. It is the art of recording, classifying, and summarizing in a significant manner in terms of money, transactions, and events which are in part at least of a financial character and interpreting the results thereof. This is according to AICPA, while for AAA, it is the accounting is the process of identifying, measuring, and communicating economic information to permit informed judgments and decision by users of the information. Naririnig ba?
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes po.
Oh.
Yes po.
Pag naka-record, kasi yung tanong ko lang, naka-record siya sa desktop ko, pero naka-mute. Maire-record din ba yung sinasabi ko? Baka kasi ang i-record lang yung sa screen, pero yung sinasabi ko dahil 'di ba, safety naman ang ginagamit ko para yung voice ko. So I hope wala rin kayong idea. So anyway, that is according to the AAA or American Accounting Association. ASC sees accounting as a service. Mainit sa pwesto ko. Ayan. So anyway, ASC sees accounting as a service activity. Its functions is to provide quantitative information, primarily financial in nature, about economic entities that is intended to be useful in making economic decisions. And accounting is, of course, the language of business. Kasi in every business, we always prepare the financial statements. It is always used in paying taxes and the like. Okay? Mag-move. So what are the accounting process class? So we have the identification wherein you select economic events or transactions. Meaning to say, the only thing you need to identify first what are the events that is relative to your business. Then is the second one is recording. Recording, classifying, and summarizing. So you record whatever significant events that is related to your business. You classify it by possible by the name of the business, supplier, customer, etc. And then you summarize. Then after that, you communicate, you prepare the accounting reports, and of course, the last one is analyze and interpret for users. For the nature of accounting, we have number one, accounting is a service activity. It is a process, an art. It deals with financial information and transaction. It also means and not an end. Kasi after the accounting period, magsisimula ka na naman ng bago. That's why meron nga tayong tinatawag na accounting cycle. Okay? Accounting also is an information system. When we say system, we follow certain steps. And of course, it helps interested users come up with informed decisions. So who are these users? The end users usually are the owner of the business. Some of them are the government for taxes that we need to pay. Some of them are investors and the like. Okay, to support daily operations of the business. Take note of the functions of accounting. Okay, kanina yung sinabi ko is nature of accounting. Okay, so for the history of accounting, the cradle of civilization or record keeping, it is started even before pa. Okay, during the 14th century, the double entry bookkeeping na pinasimulan ni Luca Pacioli, who is the father of accounting. During the French Revolution or 70s, there is a thorough study of accounting and development of accounting theory. And during the Industrial Revolution from 760 to 1830, there is a mass production and importance of fixed asset. During the 19th century, this is the beginning of modern accounting in Europe and America. And at present, there is the development of modern accounting standards and commerce. Right. So that is at present. But unfortunately, class, there is some news na there's a possibility na ma-obsolete na yung mga accountant. Okay? Kasi because of the development or because of the, what do you call this? Advancement of technology, sometimes people like accountant are being replaced by AI or artificial intelligence. And nowadays kasi meron ng mga systems or programs sa computer wherein you can just easily enter the data and they will just be the one to or the computer will just be the one to do the accounting. Okay? So there's a possibility na yung instead of yung mano-mano, although noon pa naman nagsisimula na eh. Pero darating ang panahon din talaga na yun na nga, computer-based na. And there's a possibility na baka hindi na kailanganin ng accountant. Kasi nga, napalitan na ng machines or AI. Or if ever man, kung kakailanganin, sila lang yung parang taga-enter, ganon. So, yun daw ang possible threat. Okay? Pero of course, kung mag-business ka, always yan. Di ba nga? Sabi nga, di ba? Businesses are needed in the economy. Essential pa rin tong subject na to kasi kung hindi man ikaw as an accountant ang gagawa ng ganito sa ibang company, at least ikaw as an owner, you already know how to do your financial statements, di ba? So what are the branches of accounting? Okay. So in this session, you should be able to differentiate the branches of accounting to explain the kind, types of services rendered in each of these branches. This will also serve as one of your major if you want to pursue BS accountancy. So may mga different branches po yan. So pinaka-maximum kung accounting courses ang kukunin yung class, BSA, yun yung kukuha ng board exam. Okay? Yun ang pinaka-final. But unfortunately, hindi lahat nakakatapos ng BS Accountancy. Some of them shifted to another courses or to be specific to other branches or major of accounting. Okay? So what are those? So anyway, we have the major branches of accounting, the private accounting, public accounting, government accounting, and of course, accounting education. Under the private accounting, financial accounting, cost accounting, internal auditing. Under the public accounting, we have the external auditing, management advisory services, and tax services. For specialized branches of accounting, we have international accounting and of course, forensic accounting. Okay? So, who are the users of accounting information? Sino ba ang gumagamit ng mga financial statements na kailangan nating gawin? By the way, please, since this is your first accounting one, make sure po to listen. Kasi class, it will be needed in your accounting 2 as well as in your, what do you call this? In your entrepreneurship. Okay? So, in this topic, sa users of accounting, sila yung gumagamit ng mga financial statement. By the end of this discussion or session, you should be able to define external users and give examples, define internal users and give examples, identify the type of decisions made by each group of users, and of course, describe the type of information needed by each group of users. So for the internal users, diba? Pag sinabi internal, it is within or part of the business. Of course, they use the special purpose financial statement. Sa internal uses, sila po yung mga management, employees, owners, or stockholders. For the external users naman class, these are the users outside or not part of the business. So they use the general purpose financial statement. Okay? Then for customers, these are your customers, creditors, potential investors, government, and academe, public. Okay? So that will be the part of the summative test for your week 1. Okay? And also included po ito. For the different forms of business organization, you should be able to differentiate the forms of business organization, identify its advantages and disadvantages, and business requirements of each type. By the way, you can review yung week 1 and week 2 nandun sa activity sheets ninyo. Hindi pa ako nagbibigay ng sasagutan nyo doon, pero magbibigay ako, okay? So you should be able to differentiate the forms of business organization, identify its advantages and disadvantages, and business requirements of each type. Okay? So usually, I would like you to group sana, but since we are lacking or behind time, hindi ko na ipapagawa ito, yung group reporting on sole proprietorship and partnership. Okay? So what are the types of business organization? You should be able to compare and contrast the different types of business organization according to activities. Okay? Identify the advantages and disadvantages and of course the business requirements. Hindi ko na rin po ito pinagawa because we don't have enough time. Okay? So, balikan natin yung types of business organization. Hindi nabanggit, di ba? Or forms of this organization. Wala dito sa ano na to. Wala dito sa PowerPoint na to. Class.
Recording in progress.
Nandiyan sa mga nagbe-message ha, hindi ko kayo mabasa pero nag-pop up lang. Later ko na kayo sasagutin, okay? May nag-share na ba? So, the next PowerPoint presentation kasi na isi-show ko class, sabi ko nga, nandun yung pinaka-complete discussion. Is yung the presentation that I use nung before pandemic pa. Okay? Meron na ba?
Wala pa po, ma'am.
Meron na?
Yes po, ma'am.
Parang mas maganda yata kung ito na lang i-ano ko i-discuss ko Pero sabi kasi class, yung milk lang ang kailangan ko i-discuss. Ayan. So ito po yung mga branches of accounting na very detailed. Okay? These are the possible major na pwede nyo pong kunin. Masyadong delay yata yung ano. Yung nasa screen ninyo. Bakit ganon? Iba yung nag-a-appear. Iba yung nag-a-appear sa inyo. Ayan. So ito po yung sinasabi kong branches of accounting. Possible na maging major ninyo. Okay. So yung mga pinapresent ko kasi yan yung mga part na na-omit na because of the yun na nga, most essential learning competencies lang daw ang dapat inyong matututunan. Okay? But if you want to know it, you can just read it. Nandiyan naman yung what do you call this? Yung buong PowerPoint presentation. This is the PowerPoint presentation being uploaded before the pandemic. So, nandiyan na rin yung pagkakaiba ng different accounting. So, ang lalagpasan natin yan, class, kasi nandun tayo sa what do you call this? Form of business organization. Ayan. So, there are four forms, class, of business organization available to aspiring businessmen. These are the sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, and cooperative. Okay, when you say sole proprietorship, usually this is the simplest form of business. It can operate or it is owned by only single individual, but unlike partnerships, corporation, businesses operating under such setup do not have separate legal existence from the owner. So, ang sole proprietorship kasi, wala siyang separate legal existence. Owners can opt to operate business under their own names or use fictitious names such as Aling Sari-Sari Store, etc. So, fictitious names are merely trade names that aim to instill recall to customers. So, make sure that if you're going to put up your own business and choose a name, do not forget to check it sa DTI if available pa ba yung business name na yon. Kaya make sure to prepare at least 3 business names. Okay? So, what is the advantages of sole proprietorship? It is on formation. Because sole proprietorship are much easier to establish than other forms of business administration. Kasi yung partnership and corporation and cooperative kasi, kailangan mo pa siyang i-register sa SEC. Samantalang sa sole proprietorship, napakasimple niya. Usually, sa pag-prepare ng financial statements, it is also the easiest. And this is the only thing na maituturo sa inyo here in senior high school. Kung paano gawin yung transactions or paano mag-prepare ng financial statements sa partnership up to the yung mga ibang forms of business organization class, ituturo po yan sa inyo sa higher level or sa college. Okay? So may separate subject dyan, which is the partnership and corporation. Okay? And may laws din kayong pag-aaralan in relation to that. Okay? And also, the owner has full control of the business. Meaning to say, kung kumita ka man, automatic, sa'yo lang yung kita. Kung magka-problema, sa'yo din yung problema lang. Okay? Owners can mix personal and of course, business assets. Okay? Kasi wala nga siyang ibang kasalo pagdating sa mga finances. Sarili niya lang. So, pwede niyang, kung anong gamit niya sa bahay, yun din ang gamitin niya sa business niya. Owners have all the profits for themselves. And of course, simple taxation only. What are the disadvantages? Dahil sarili mo lang po, unlimited ang liability, which means that creditors, customers, or the government and other outside parties can go after the personal assets of the owner even after extinguishing all the assets of the business in the satisfaction of their claims. For example, hindi ka nakakabayad ng tax. So, yung personal na gamit mo sa bahay, pwede pong kunin ni kung sino man. Or kung kanino ka man liable. So, ganun po yung isa sa mga disadvantages ng sole proprietorship. So, ito dapat yung i-report niyo. Pero ako na. Difficulty of raising additional capital. Kasi just rely on your own. Owner's bias. Kasi whatever decision, wala kang ibang kumbaga ka-brainstorm, walang ibang aapila sa'yo, kundi sarili mo lang. And in a partnership naman, class, it is a contract whereby 2 or more persons bind themselves to combine money, property, or industry to common fund with the intention of dividing the profits among themselves. 2 or more persons may also form a partnership for the exercise of a profession. So dito, usually, nagpo-form kayo ng contract Depende kung magkano i-invest, kung isa ba mag-i-invest, yung isa hindi, etc. So, meron po kayong ano dyan. Basta it is between 2 or more person. Okay? So, from this definition of partnership given by the law, we can take note of the following. So, 2 or more persons are needed to form a partnership. Money is not the only resource that a person can contribute in a partnership. It can be, for example, money invest ng isa, property yung isa, sa'yo naman yung function. Okay? So, when you say property, it refers to the other assets owned by a person. Examples are land, building, vehicle, etc. Industry refers to the skills and expertise of the person. So, for example, wala siyang papuhunan, pero they have the skills. So, industry ang i-invest niya. A partnership must be established for the purpose of obtaining profit. If an organization is created for purposes other than the generation of profit, example, charitable institution or public hospitals, it cannot take the form of a partnership. So, kailangan po obtaining profit. Okay? So, partnership are the common form of business organization used by companies who generate profits by the practice of profession. Example, law firms, auditing firms, and the like. So, kanina sa sole proprietorship, walang separate existence. Okay? Dito, sa partnership meron. They have separate legal existence. A partnership can enter into contracts under its own name. A partnership can also acquire property under its own name. Okay? So property acquired by the partnership belongs to the partnership, not to the individual partners. However, even if a partnership has separate legal existence, its income is not taxed as a separate entity. After the income has been distributed to the partners, it will be included in the respective tax returns and it will be taxed accordingly. Some examples of these acts are voting in elections and holding positions in public office. So kung may tanong kayo, make sure to raise your questions right away. Okay? Kung meron kayong hindi naintindihan. And hopefully you're jotting down notes. So, mutual agency. So partners being co-owners of the business can perform acts for the partnerships even without asking permissions from other partners. Mutual agency means that the acts of a partner are binding on a partnership even though he or she has no authority to do so, as long as the act concerns the normal business operations of the partnership. Meaning to say, even if wala yung isa mong kapartner, pero sa ikagaganda naman ng business at talagang ginagawa mo lang yung trabaho mo as one of the partners, related sa concerns, sa normal business operation of the partnerships, okay lang yun because of the what you call mutual agency. Okay, so for example, Andre, Bart, and Charles form a partnership called ABC Partnership. ABC Partnership is engaged in the business of manufacturing clothes. Two partners divided the task in operating the partnership among them. Andre, being a graduate with a degree in human resource management, was designated to handle anything employer-related. Last week, Andre bought 10 sewing machines from DEF company. Andre clearly exceeded the authority given to him since he was not assigned to purchase equipment for the company. Is the act of Andre binding on the partnership? Yes or no? And why? Who can answer? Hello? Ang sagot ko lang, yes or no? O may nakinig? Take note, you're also graded in your participation, ha? Ano class? For office. Paki-type na lang kung ayaw nyo magsalita. Paki-type dyan sa comment or sa message box natin. Paki-turn off po ng mga mic. I-open nyo kung magsasalita kayo. Okay? And say permission to speak or you can raise your hand. Walang gustong magsalita. Take note ha. So the answer po is yes. Remember, sinabi ko kanina, kung ikakabuti naman, even if hindi yun part ng authority given to you, because of the mutual agency class, okay lang yung ginawa ni Andre. Kasi di ba, supposed to be, ang authority lang given to them, since ang degree ni Andre is Human Resource Management, kumbaga, ang i-handle lang niya is anything employee related. Okay? Tanong, employer related ba yung pag-accept, pagbili ni Andre ng 10 sewing machine from DFA company? So sabi dito, clearly exceeded the authority given to him since he was not assigned to purchase equipment for the company. So, is the act of Andre binding the partnership? Ang sagot is yes. Kasi sewing machines are normally used by businesses engaged in the manufacturing of clothes. Even though Andre has no authority to perform the act itself is related to the normal business operation. So ito po yung nagpapasalba kay Andre. Kasi related naman siya sa normal business operations. If hindi nag-act doon si Andre, there's a possible na ma-stop po yung kanilang normal operations. As being one of the partners, of course, pag nag-stop ang operation, meaning to say, mag-i-stop din yung income on that day. Kasi mag-i-stop yung operation ng business. Okay? So, if ever, suppose Andre purchased instead a brand new speedboat using the proportionate asset, in this case, the partnership is not liable. Why? Kasi yung pagbili niyang speedboat, it is not related o no relation to the partnership operations. Kasi itong personal yun eh. Andre is the only one liable and he should give back the partnership assets he used to purchase the speedboat. So meaning to say, whatever it is, whatever money is being, whatever money of in the partnership should only be used to the operation or to the business operations of in relation to their company only. Hindi pa pwedeng pang personal. Okay? So another features of a partnership is the unlimited liability. So even though partnership has a separate legal existence, partners are still liable for debts and obligations that cannot be paid by partnership assets. Like in a sole proprietorship, creditors and other parties can go after the personal assets of the partners when partnership assets are not enough to satisfy their claims. Creditors can claim the deficiency from any of the partners or from all of the partners. So, unlimited ang liability niya. Okay? Pero, limited life. The life of partnership can be easily ended through partnership dissolution or liquidation. Kasi if one of the partners will quit, automatic the partnership will be dissolved. Okay? Then dissolution of a partnership does not necessarily mean that a partnership will cease to exist, meaning withdrawal and admission of partners are normal occurrence in a partnership and they only lead to the formation of a new partnership. Partnership liquidation, on the other hand, ends the operation of the partnership. So, kunwari, 3 kami nag-start mong una, nag-withdraw na yung isa. So, that is the end of the partnership. Then you can just form another partnership na 2 na lang kayo. Okay? So, pag na-liquidate na yung mga natirang ari-arian nung 3 partners, pwede na uling bumuo yung 2 natitira na hindi na-withdraw ng another form of partnership. Okay? Kasi ililista na or ira-register na naman uli nila iyon sa SEC. Sabi ko nga, meron pong contract na pinipirmahan ang bawat partners. Ayan. So, co-ownership of partnership property. In the formation of a partnership, partners contribute money, property, and industry into a common fund. Once a partner has contributed his or her money and or property, it does not belong to him or her anymore. The contributed money and property belong to the partnership and the partners only have a proportionate share of partnership asset. So, co-ownership of partnership property, for example, if the ABC partnership assumed that Bart contributed in a delivery van valued at 500,000 pesos, Bart cannot subsequently claim that he is the owner of the van. Okay, from the moment he contributed the delivery van to the partnership, he only has a proportionate share of the assets. So kung tatlo sila, yung van, kung maibenta man yung van, divided by 3, yung napagbentahan. Okay? Kahit na kinontribute ni Bart yun alone. Dahil na-contribute na nga, belong na siya doon sa partnership. So profits or losses to the partnership do not also belong to a specific partner. All partners have a claim on the definite proportion of the profits. The distribution of the profits should follow profit sharing. And, nasa na ako? Oops. Proper sharing scheme agreed upon during the formation of the partnership. So, dun sa contract na fino-form kasi ninyo, nandun na rin kung magkano yung hatian, ilang percentage, what if malugi, mga ganon. Okay, nandun na yun lahat. So, if there is no profit sharing scheme, profit or loss are distributed according to the original capital contributions of the partners. So, partnership agreement, the definition provided by the law states that a partnership is a contract. Contracts are perfected through oral or written agreement, but I suggest do not just via oral, always black and white or written agreement. Thus, a partnership can be formed orally or in written form. However, to protect the interests of all partners, it is ideal to form a partnership, ito na yon, in a written contract. This written contract is called the Articles of Partnership. So when you go to college, we have your obligation and contracts. We have your partnership incorporation. You also have the negotiable instruments. So marami po, and income taxation. So marami kayong pag-aaralan na law. Kala mo, business course lang tinake mo. Marami po kayong batas na pag-aaralan in relation to this one. Okay? Kasi marami ditong nadadali. Okay? Sabi nga nila, di ba? Ignorance of the law excuses no one. Okay? So, in the written contract, it is called the Articles of Partnership, and it contains the following: name of the partnership, location of the principal office of the partnership, the name, citizenship, and residence of the partners, terms for which the partnership is to exist, the purposes for which the partnership is formed, and original capital contribution of the partners. So, advantages. It is easier to create than a corporation, better ability to acquire additional capital than sole proprietorship, larger pool of human capital than sole proprietorship. And its disadvantages, unlimited liability, na na-discuss na kanila, mutual agency, and of course, limited life. So this is the summary or the general advantages and disadvantages of general partnership. So in a corporation naman, class, usually in a corporation, it is composed of different companies, okay? An official being created by operation of law, having the right of succession in the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incidents to its existence. So the definition emphasizes 4 things about a corporation. These are: a corporation is an artificial being. Artificial. It means that it is an entity separate and distinct from its owner. Okay? A corporation is created by operation of law. Individuals cannot form a corporation by themselves. The law must play a role in the formation of a corporation. A corporation has the right of succession. Ownership rights can be passed to other persons through sale, donation, or any other mode of transfer. So the law is the source of the powers and attribute of corporation. Being the source, the law can likewise restrict the authority of corporations in performing acts. Okay? And of course, ano ba ang pag sinabing separate legal existence? So just like partnership, meron siyang sarili. It is treated by law as an artificial being, separate and distinct from its owners. A corporation can enter into contracts and transactions under its name. So, ano ba mga naisip ng corporation? ABS-CBN, mga ganun, okay? It can also perform acts that can be done by natural person, except those are purely personal in nature, such as voting and holding positions in public. So, it also have a limited liability. So, kanina, Si partnership, unlimited liability. Make sure to distinguish the 4 forms of business organization. So the personal assets of the stockholders of a corporation are protected from the claims of creditors and other outside parties. Thus, the maximum loss that a stockholder can bear equals his or her investment. Even if the corporation is bankrupt or has unpaid claims, due to the accidents and lawsuits, the stockholders cannot be obligated to pay any deficiency. It is also transferable ownership rights. So ownership rights in a corporation are represented by stocks. Okay? So ito yung kung may stocks ka ba. A stock is an intangible, example, no physical form asset, evidence a proportionate share in the properties of a corporation. A stock is represented by a stock certificate. If an individual has stocks of a corporation, he or she is an owner of the company. Stocks can be transferred to other person through sale, donation, or other modes of transfer. Okay? And they are also virtually unlimited life. A corporation shall exist for a period not exceeding 50 years from the date of its formation. The term of a corporation may, however, be extended for periods not exceeding 50 years, and this gives corporation virtually unlimited life. So hanggang 50. After 50, kailangan nilang i-renew. This gives corporations virtually unlimited life as long as the stockholders want to continue the business operations. They are allowed to extend the life of the corporation, and there is no limit to the number of extension a corporation can avail of. A corporation is also do not affected by the withdrawal, death, and admission of a stockholder. Kasi take note, di ba? You can transfer your right. Okay? Kung magulang ka niya, usually yung stocks, dinodonate ng magulang sa anak o minsan binibenta kasi nga it has separate entity. So corporation management, it is the structure of a corporation is more complex than that of the other forms of business organization. You can easily identify or try to search it kung how to prepare the financial statements of a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, and cooperative. Malalaman nyo doon yung ibahan. Okay? Stockholders are the owners of a corporation. They may elect a board of directors to manage the corporation. The board of directors represents the interests of the stockholders and they are responsible for creating operating policies of the company. So, if you're fond of watching K-drama, yung mga nangyari kay Gu Jumpyo, mga ganon, di ba? Nung nalugi yung company, so tawag kasi doon corporation, di ba? So mga stockholders sila, bumaba ang stock, mga ganon, mga term na yon. Okay? How about yung government regulations? So corporations are subject to stricter government regulations, mas mahigpit than sole proprietorship and partnership. Being major contributors to the income of the whole economy, the operations of corporations are closely monitored by the government because ang corporation kasi ang laki ng investment dyan, meaning to say, ang laki rin ng kinikita niyan. And alam naman, pag malaki ang kinikita, so minomonitor ng government yan kung nagbabayad ba sila ng taxes. Okay? I think dyan yata nadali ang ABS-CBN. Okay? So, the bankruptcy of a large corporation can cause the whole economy to also spiral downwards. Government regulations are designed not only for the protection of public interest, but also for the stockholders as well. Okay, so double taxation, the income of a corporation is taxed on the corporate level and the individual level. So, dalawa, tinatax niya sa corporation itself and the owner itself. Okay? In a corporation, the income is already taxed before being distributed to the stockholders. Once stockholder receives his or her share of the income, it is included in his or her tax return and will be taxed for the second time. Kaya double taxation. Okay? Dividends. The corporation is not required to distribute to stockholders the income it's generated from operations. So the stockholders of a corporation will only be entitled to receive a share of the income once the board of directors approves the distribution. The income distributed to stockholder is called dividends. So dividends may be in the form of cash, stock, or property. Even through the approval of the board of directors, it is necessary before income can be distributed. Dividends are given to the stockholders on a regular basis to keep them happy. So if the stockholder do not regularly receive dividends, they tend to become dissatisfied, and usually it is the time to sell their stocks. Okay? So these are the examples. And these are the summary. Okay? Next, the last form of business organization is the cooperatives. So a cooperative is a duly registered association of persons within a common bond of interest who have voluntarily joined together to achieve a lawful common social or economic and make equitable contributions to the capital required and accepting a fair share of the risks and benefits of the undertaking in accordance with universally accepted cooperative principles. So from this, we can see that a cooperative is an association of individuals who share a common goal. So membership is usually voluntary and available to all individuals. So regardless of their social or political or racial or religious backgrounds and beliefs. So the primary objective of this is to provide goods and services to its members and enable them to attain increased income and savings. Okay? So what are the characteristics? So it can sue and be sued under its own name. It has the right of succession. Members of a cooperative are subject to limited liability. It shall exist for a period not exceeding 50 years, just like corporation, from the date of formation. So the cooperative term may be extended for period not exceeding 50 years. So a cooperative has its set of board of directors also, and income of cooperative called net surplus, it belongs to its members. Okay? So ilan ang i-form? At least 15 persons for any of the following purposes. Encourage thrift and saving mobilization among the members to generate funds and extend credit to the members for productive and provident purposes. To encourage among the members systematic production and marketing. To provide goods and services and other requirements to the members. To develop expertise and skills among its members, to acquire lands and provide housing benefits for the members, to ensure against losses of the members, to promote and advance the economic, social, and educational status of the members. Yan. So, 3:30 ako matatapos. So service companies. So a business is an organization that converts inputs or resources such as material, labor, and overhead into outputs which are generally either goods or services. So there are three major types of business. These are the service companies. So anong example ng service companies? For example, kung dentist ka, yun, isa yun. Merchandising companies, so ito naman yung business na you buy and sell. And of course, manufacturing companies, nagke-create ka naman. Okay? Excuse me. So service companies are firms that generally use their employees to provide intangible products or services to customers, including professional skills, advice, expertise, and other related products. The primary source of revenues of service companies is the performance of services, often referred to as service revenue. So for example, a law firm is an example. Provides legal advice to its clients. A school, because the teachers teaches you or educate their students. A bus company wherein It invests heavily on equipment which are used to perform transportation services. And other example of service companies are, of course, bank, accounting firms, and hospitals. And for service companies, the major phases of their operating cycle include paying out money for employees and other operating expenses, performing the services, and collecting cash payments from customers. Under the operating cycle is the time it takes for a company to create products, sell these products, and collect cash payments from the customers. By the way, heads up class, I'm going to tie you up to my grade 12 STEM because they're having their entrepreneurship para at least kahit paano you have an overview kung ano po yung gagawin din ninyo in your marketing and at the same time in your entrepreneurship subject. I want you to assist them, although i-discuss ko rin yung buong accounting cycle sa kanila for their financial aspect. But I want you to tie up with them and hopefully matulungan nyo sila. O baka naman baliktad, kayo pang matulungan niya. Okay? Para sa paggawa ng financial statements. Okay? Anyway, to illustrate, so consider FDG and company which is an accounting firm. In order to conduct its business, it hires its employees who are highly skilled accountants and who will carry out engagement with the firm's clients. So FDG and company make sure that its employees are compensated properly and are given adequate trainings. These employees perform audit, consulting, and tax services for the clients. Consequently, huwag kayo maingay. Consequently, nasaan na ako? The clients pay for the services rendered and the operating cycle ends when FDG and core receives the payment in the form of cash. So kung itatransact natin to, kapag nag-render ka ng services, accounting services mo sa client, and nakatanggap ka ng cash, this is debit, cash, that is something that the company received. Credit, anong binigay mo, anong value kapalit ng cash na natanggap mo, is the service. So ang tawag ng service na yan is service income. Okay? Ayan. So the operating cycle of service business is cash on hand, pays the employees and other expenses, then the employees will perform services, then they receive payments from the customers, then ayun, hawak na niya yung na-receive na payment. And cycle lang. Okay? So the operating cycle of the companies, one of the advantages of service company over the other types of business is the absence of inventory, okay, or tangible goods held by the company. Holding inventory entails proper management and control measures, which makes it costly. Moreover, because service companies produce intangible products, they do not require production facilities and that frees up cash for other important business matter. Diba? Later, madidiscuss sa buy and sell yan. Okay? So these companies rely on human capital. One drawback to service company is that inability to standardize services as services performed vary from one client to another. And in order to ensure that the services given to customers are of high quality, constant evaluation and trainings are administered. With human capital being limited, trainings and employment benefits are also vital to attract, retain, and motivate highly skilled employees. For example, as a teacher, of course, our employee, the DepEd, will provide training for us so that hindi naman ganun ka-stagnant yung knowledge na meron namin. Kasi there are times na, or the employee itself, or the employee itself will, of course, try his or her best to upgrade. Meaning to study, to have his or her master's or doctorate degree, or read a lot and keep updated to what is happening in the industry. For example, ako as an ABM teacher, yes, I took my master's. Because of the limited budget, hindi pa ako makapag-pursue and plano ko talaga sa ibang bansa maghanap magdo-doctorate. Yung talagang plano ko. But anyway, lagi pa rin dapat akong nagbabasa ng mga business section. Nanonood dapat ako ng news, kung ano na nga nangyayari locally and globally. Kasi diba, just like what is happening right now, there is a war between Ukraine and Russia. And it can really affect the business industry class. Okay? It will increase the transportation. So usually pag may war, yan, tumataas po yung oil natin. Okay? By the way, I hope nag-screenshot kayo ng discussion natin, ha? With your face also. Kung meron sana mag-screenshot ng buong naka-attendance na 41 students out of 60 plus. Nako. Anyway, yun. You need to train yourself. Kung hindi man mag-provide yung employer mo, dapat ikaw mismo, tinitrain mo ang sarili mo. Ako, I always train myself for being techie. Yan. So, under the merchandising companies, ito yung buy and sell, no? Merchandising companies sell tangible products or nahahawakan. These types of business buys finished or almost finished goods from their suppliers and resells the same to customers. So, isang mga halimbawa, masasabi ko dito is mga sari-sari store. They buy and sell. Merchandising companies primarily earn revenues from the sale of the goods or merchandise, also known as sales revenue or sales. Okay? There are two types of merchandising companies, retailers and wholesalers. A merchandising company that sells goods directly to customer is called a retailer. Sari-sari store yan. Excuse me. A wholesaler is a merchandising company that sells goods to retailers. So, kung sari-sari store owner ka, usually sila yung bumibili sa bultuhan. Pwedeng sa directly sa warehouse or sa mga distribution centers such as dito sa RCS, Magic, or sa CSI. Okay? For instance, the retailer National Bookstore buys school supplies from the wholesaler pilot. Ayan. So, ito naman po yung cycle. Kanina, 4 lang. Ngayon, naging 5 na, di ba? So, meron kang cash on hand, you buy goods, you store the goods as an inventory sa stock mo, o sa tindahan mo, then you sell the inventory, then you receive the payment. Then after you receive the payment, meron ka na uling cash on hand para pambili ng goods, and this is just a cycle. Okay. So the operating cycle of a merchandising company is typically longer than that of service company. It starts with the purchase of goods to be held for resale, also known as inventory. So the company eventually sells the inventory to customers, and the cycle ends with the receipt of cash payments. As you can see, the purchase of inventory and its subsequent sale lengthen the cycle. For example, National Bookstore buys school supplies from various suppliers such as Pilot, Cattleya, Crayola, and 3M. These school supplies, which are inventory of the company, are put on the store racks and are sold to customers afterwards. The cycle ends with the cash payments are received by the company. So as the name suggests, manufacturers, the third type, business type, is the manufacturing company. So as the name suggests, manufacturers create their own products. So we belong, yung business ko, which is laminate, bakery manufacturing products, we belong to the manufacturing type kasi we create, okay? Create their own products. They use raw materials, components, or parts which are processed using machines, computers, and laborers to produce finished goods. Manufacturers typically employ large-scale production, which is done in the manufacturing plant, similar to merchandising companies. They earn revenues primarily from sale of the manufactured products. The products of manufacturing companies can be sold directly to consumers, retailers, and other manufacturers. For example, Toyota builds cars and sells them to customers through their dealers nationwide. Meanwhile, Unilever manufactures its products like Dove and Cream Silk and sells them to retailers such as SM and supermarkets. 3M manufactures adhesive which are bought and used by aircraft manufacturers in creating their own products. So whatever products being sold in merchandising business, galing yun sa mga manufacturing companies. Okay? Since a manufacturing company produces its own product, its operating cycle generally has the longest period compared to service and merchandising. The cycle is an additional phase, which is the production of goods. These goods are also held as inventory and later sold to its customers. Likewise, the operating cycle of a manufacturing company ends with the collection of cash and payments. So, ito na po yun. Sample lang naman to. Okay? So, mas complicated. Mas marami. Yeah, if you have cash on hand, you pay for the inputs such as materials, labor, and overhead. Convert the inputs into finished goods. You store the finished goods. your inventory, you sells the inventory, you receive payment from the customer, now you have your cash on hand. Yeah. So our next topic is accounting concept, but let's see if it's still included in our most essential learning competencies. Okay. Let's go back to our previous presentation. Yeah. So I'm done discussing this one. The types of business, we are also done. Ayan. Ayan. So we have accounting concepts and principles. Hindi na to kasama class sa sa summative test na bukas. Okay? Ang kasama lang is hanggang sa types, hanggang dun sa manufacturing. Okay? So, pero ito kasama to sa summative test next Friday. Kasi ang may discuss week 3 and week 4. Okay? So, accounting concepts and principles. So, you should be able to explain the varied accounting concept and principles. Solve exercises on accounting principles as applied to various cases. So, the accounting assumptions. So, the GAAP principles are widely accepted set of rules, concepts, and principles governing the application of accounting procedures. Attempts to standardize and regulate accounting definition, assumption, and method, accounting standards are used in the Philippines are PAS or Philippine Accounting Standards and PFRS, Philippine Financial Reporting Standards by the FRSC. So, in short, ito yung safety protocol na sinusunod natin na binibigay ng ITF ba yun? So ito po yung mga protocols na kailangan nating sundin in terms sa accounting. Okay? Dito nila binase. Okay? So the accounting assumption, so economic business accounting entity assumption, all of the business transaction are separate business owners' personal transaction. Going concern assumption, in the absence of a contrary information, a business entity is assumed to remain in existence for an indeterminate period of time. Wait lang, I think much better kung sa kabila ko siya titingnan ko lang yung mga dapat i-discuss for the, hindi tayo masyadong lumagpas for the week 3. So the elements of accounting equation. Okay. And the 5 major accounts. Yun ang week 3 and week 4. Okay. Matandaan nyo kasi kaya ko gustong ilipat dito kasi pati examples, very detailed kasi yung nagawa doon sa last talaga. Ayan. So, yung dinidiscuss ko ngayon class is what do you call this? These are for week 3. The next topic na yung yung 5 major accounts. Okay? Pang na to? Kasama na to sa summative test 2 ninyo. Okay? Anyway, so we have different accounting concept and principle. So these are the accrual accounting, matching principle, use of judgment and estimates, prudence, substance over form, going concern assumptions, accounting entity assumptions, time period assumptions, and the generally accepted accounting principles or GAAP, International Financial Reporting Standards, and meron pa to, mahaba pa to Wait. Ayaw magpakita. Wait lang tinataas ko lang para makita niyo. Naputol kasi. Oops. Ayan. So, inayos ko lang class para makita nyo. Ayan. So, International Financial Reporting Standard, IFRS, and Philippine Financial Reporting Standard, or PFRS. These are the lahat ng accounting principles and concepts is dito po na-relate. Okay? So, financial statements become more comparable and more useful to users if these concepts, principles, and assumptions are followed by businesses. We can look at this set of rules that govern the accounting process. Accounting concept, principles, and assumptions serve as the foundation of accounting in order to avoid misunderstanding and enhance the understanding and usefulness of the financial statements. For example, the accrual accounting. The effect of business transactions should be recognized in the period in which they occurred. Income should be recognized in the period when it is earned, regardless of when the payment is received. Expenses should be recognized in the period when it is incurred, regardless of when the expenses are being paid. Anong ibig sabihin po nitong accrual accounting? Take note ha, should be recognized in the period in which they occurred. So kung nagkaroon na ng transactions, regardless, kunwari na-render mo na yung services mo, regardless kung nabayaran ka or hindi, automatic, isusulat mo na yun, i-recognize mo na yun. Okay? Pero halimbawa naman, kunwari si customer nagbayad na, in advance, at hindi mo pa nare-rendered yung services mo, i-record ba or hindi? Class. So as much as possible, wag muna kasi hindi mo pa nare-render yung services. Pero kung i-record mo naman, usually sa adjusting entry mo na yan nire-record. Okay? Kasi usually yung accrual and deferral, medyo malaki ang factor niyan sa adjusting entries. Okay? So, example. Suppose Andrew, a budding entrepreneur, establish a merchandising business that sells ready-to-wear clothes to different ukay-ukay stores in the country. The income from Andrew's businesses primarily comes from selling goods to customers. Sales to customers can be for cash or on credit. So if the business was able to sell goods for cash, this will be recorded in the accounting records for the company. On the other hand, if the goods were sold on credit, the transaction should still be recorded in the accounting record as accounts receivable. An accountant does not have to wait for cash to be received or for cash to be paid before or she records a business transaction. Because of accrual accounting, use of accounts such as accounts receivable, accounts payable, prepaid expenses, accrued expenses, deferred income, and accrued income are possible. Okay? The opposite of accrual accounting is the cash basis accounting. Under the cash basis accounting, income is recognized when cash is received and expenses are recognized when cash is paid. As its name implies, under the cash basis of accounting, the receipt and or payment of cash is a requisite before transactions are recorded in the accounting records of a company. Okay? So, kaya kayo, you need to identify ano bang gusto mong gamitin, cash basis of accounting or accrual accounting. Okay? Take note also of the difference between the two. Okay? Accrual, it doesn't necessarily matter if it is paid in cash or on credit. You need to record it as long as na-render mo na yung services. In cash basis, malaki ang factor ng cash. Every time na na-receive mo ang cash or na i-bayad mo ang cash, i-record mo. Okay? So under the matching principle, expenses are recognized in the same period as the related revenue. So revenues of business always come with expenses. The matching principle states that related revenue and expenses should always go together.
In other words, if the revenues are recorded in period 1, the related expenses should also be recorded in period 1. So there is a cause and effect relationship between revenues and expenses. If this relationship does not exist between revenues and expenses, the expenses should be recognized immediately in the accounting records of the company. Advertising and marketing expenses are the most common examples of this kind of expense. Since the related benefit that is expected to be derived from advertising and marketing cannot be measured reliably, and these expenses are recognized immediately. So for example, no, Rudy, a car salesman who works for Honda, has a monthly salary of 30,000 pesos. Aside that, he receives a commission of 5% for all the sales that he made for the month. During the month of December, he was able to sell 10 cars for a total amount of 12 million. The 12 million is recorded as sales of the company. By selling 10 cars of the month, Rudy is entitled to receive 630. Okay, so for example, 30,000 monthly salary plus 600,000 commissions. How much is to be recognized as business expense for December? So the monthly salary of Rudy plus his commission are expenses of the company. By the end of the month, the salary of Rudy and his commissions are still not yet paid. So under the matching principle, the 630 will be recorded as an expense in December, even though it is not yet paid, since it is related to the 12 million in revenue. So without the matching principle, the 630 may be recorded as an expense in January when the payment to Rudy is May. I hope nag-gets po ninyo. So kung hindi nyo masyadong nag-gets, you can just go back later on. Okay? Under the matching principle again, how much is to be recognized a business expense for December? So the monthly salary of Rudy plus his commissions are expenses of the company. So by the end of the expenses ng company, pero income kay Rudy ito. Okay? Kasi ito ibibili, babayad kay Rudy. Kasi dapat magkaroon kayo na ma-differentiate nyo yung point of view ng company and point of view ni employee and point of view mo as an owner. Dapat meron kang gano'n. Okay? Anyway, by the end of the month, the salary of Rudy and his commission are still not yet paid. So under the matching principle, the 630 will be recorded as an expense in December, even though it is not yet paid, since it is related to the 12 million revenue. Without the matching principle, the 630 may be recorded as an expense in January when the payment to Rudy is made. Okay, so accounting estimates, another principle and assumptions, are approximations made by accountants or the management in the preparation of financial statements. So the use of reasonable estimates is an essential part of the preparation of financial statements and does not undermine their reliability. So some items in a company's accounting record, such as cash, property, plant, and equipment, or PPE, and accounts payable can be measured precisely for these items that can be measured with precision, and the use of estimates is not required. So for example, warranty expense is an item in the accounting record that requires the use of estimates. A warranty is a guarantee made by the seller to the buyer promising to repair or replace the thing sold if necessary within a specified period of time. When a seller sells goods, there are revenues generated that are recorded in the company accounting records. According to the matching principle, all related expenses should also be recognized in the same period the revenue are recognized. So warranty expense related to the revenue generated from the sale of goods. But the problem is what amount of warranty the company should recognize in the accounting period. Kaya nga meron tayong use of judgment and estimates. Kayo na mag-judge. Kayo na mag-estimate. So a company is not entirely sure when warranties will be performed by the company. Because of this, the warranty expense in a company's accounting record is usually estimated based on historical data. Okay? So however, the use of accounting estimates cannot be abused by an entity by purposely overestimating expenses. So masyado niyang nilakihan. Okay? make sure may proper data kayo. So some companies overestimate expenses to decrease net income and decrease the taxes payable. So judgment used in making accounting estimates should be backed up by the reasonable basis. Kasi mamaya tanong kayo or i-question kayo ni auditor, ni Commission on Audit. So it is more desirable to use less judgment in the accounting process because the use of judgment leads to more subjective financial statements. So I hope hindi kayo na information overload. Ayan. So another principle is the principle of prudence. Prudence is, in the accounting sense, is also called conservatism. When applying the concept of prudence, an accountant makes sure that income and assets are not overstated and liabilities and expenses are not overstated. In the simplest words, conservatism means, in case of doubt, record any loss and do not record any gain. So it's better to record any loss in case of doubt, okay? But do not record any gain. Take note of that. So for example, when an accountant is unsure whether or not to recognize an expense, the concept of prudence states that he or she should recognize it in the accounting records. Anyway, meron naman tayong adjusting entry where you can correct whatever error you have made, okay? That he or she should recognize it in the accounting records. On the other hand, if an accountant is unsure whether or not to recognize income, prudence states that he or she should not recognize it, okay? So information presented in the financial statements of a company should truthfully and faithfully represent the financial condition and financial performance of the economy. So for this to be possible, an accountant should look at the substance of every financial transaction rather than its legal form. And another principle is the substance over form. So most of the time, the substance of a transaction does not differ from its legal form. An example is the sale of goods. In these transactions, there can be no doubt that the substance and legal form of the transaction is, of course, a sale. A transaction where the substance differs from the legal form is a lease. In a lease, the lessor allows the lessee to use the former's property in exchange for a periodic fee. However, when ownership of the property transfers to the lessee at the end of the lease, the substance differs from the legal form. In this case, the transaction is really a sale of a property with installment payments instead of a lease. So the lessee will record an asset and a liability in his or her accounting records instead of recognizing an expense. Kasi nga, binenta na, nagbayad lang ng installments. I mean to say, naka-earn ng profit, pero meron din liability. Okay? Ano yung asset na sinasabi? That is the property. So it can be building, it can be land. Dahil installment mo binayaran, then you have a payable. Kung kanino ka man bumili. Okay? So when the substance differs from the legal form, follow the substance of the transaction. In the example given, the substance is a sale of a property in installment payments, while the legal form is a lease. Ano daw susundin? Yung substance. Okay? Hindi yung legal form na lease. Ibig sabihin, ito nire-record nyo. So the transaction should be treated as a sale of the property in installments since substance prevails over legal form. I hope hindi po kayo nalito. Take note class, nasa principles pa lang tayo. Wala pa tayo sa major accounts and wala pa rin tayo sa mga accounting title. Okay, so I hope you read in advance. Okay? Kasi gusto ko by the time we will discuss the whole accounting cycle process, you already memorize and understood the accounting titles that we are going to use almost for the whole semester of accounting 1 and also to be used in your accounting 2 later on. Okay? So going concern assumptions states that the operations of a business will continue indefinitely into the future. So this means that the operations of a business will not stop in the near future and it will not be forced in to liquidate its assets to pay off its liabilities. So the going concern assumptions allow accountants to defer recognition of expenses in the future. So for example, a company A rents a building for 100,000 per month. On January 1, 2016, the company paid the rent for 2 years in the amount of 2,400,000. So under the going concern assumption that the company can recognize the part of the 2,400,000 that is not yet incurred. On January 1, 2016, the company has not yet used the building, but they already paid the rent. In this case, the accountant can record an asset, which is the prepaid expense. Why? Kasi advance pong nagbayad ng 2,400,000. Prepaid expense. Okay? Pero hindi pa na-incur o hindi pa niya nagagamit. So after a month, nagamit na niya. Okay? So instead of recognizing an expense immediately. So kapag nagamit na niya, hindi na prepaid expense. Magkakaroon ka na ng rent expense. Lalo na yung first month. So i-divide mo lang yun sa 12. So if the entity is not a going concern, there's no point recognizing the payment as an asset. Not derive all benefits from it. Okay? So a company that is not a going concern will hold operation in the near future. So the payment of 2,400,000 will be recognized fully as an expense instead of recording an asset. Kasi hindi pa nagbe-benefit yung company. Kaya naka-recognize pa siya as an expense. Okay? Pero kapag nag-benefit na yung company, of course, magkakaroon ka na ng rent expense din. For that certain month lang. Okay? Kasi di-divide mo yun. Kasi kumbaga yung na-avail mo lang is for the next accounting month. The next is going concern assumption. So however, if there is a substantial doubt about the ability of the company to continue as a going concern, the company can abandon this assumption. The following items are evidences that a company is not a going concern. For example, the result of operation show losses. Abandon mo lang yan. Inability to pay the obligation of the company in time. Loan defaults, suppliers do not sell on credit in the company, legal proceedings against the company. Okay? So, yung going concern, i-abandon nyo lang yung assumption na yan if these evidences occurs. How about the accounting entity assumption? So ito na yung mga assumptions ha, kanina principles, diba, assumptions. So the business is separate and distinct from the owners, managers, employees operating the business. Likewise, if a person owns multiple businesses, each business is distinct from all the others. This means that if a person has 3 businesses, then each business will keep its own accounting records. The assets and liabilities of the 3 businesses should not be mixed with one another. So the main purpose of the accounting entity assumption is for the fair presentation of the financial statement of the company. The personal transactions, owners, managers, and employees are recognized in the accounting records of the businesses. The financial statements will not accurately represent the results of operation of the business. That's why, class, for example, if we are going to start your own business na, make sure to separate the receipts, the OR of your personal transactions to your business transactions. Kasi take note, only those with official receipt na related sa business transaction mo, ang kakailanganin mo to record in your accounting or book of accounts. Okay, na binibigay ng BIR. Yung may tatak yun. Kasi kung hindi rin siya OR at hindi siya related sa business mo, dapat hindi mo yan inire-record doon. Okay? Kaya as much as possible, sa business mo, request for an OR. Okay? Time period assumption states that the indefinite life of a company can be divided into periods of equal length for the preparation of financial reports. Normally, the periods span for 1 year. Every year, most businesses produce financial reports for the benefits of users, accounting information. Still, there are businesses that produce financial reports on period less than or in excess of 1 year. The frequency of financial reporting also depends on the normal operating cycle of the business. So, usually, every year nagpe-prepare, but there are also companies na nagpe-prepare monthly or quarterly or semi-annually. Okay? It really depends on the operating cycle of your business. So users of the accounting information of a company need periodic reports to enable them to make economic decisions. An owner or stockholder needs reports consistently to decide if he or she will still keep his or her ownership interest in the company. And a supplier needs reports consistently to decide if it is still beneficial to transact with the company. So this is where the time period assumption comes into days. So the purpose of financial statement is to show the overall results of the operations of a company. However, the final comprehensive report of the results of the company operations cannot be produced until the company is at the end of its life or after liquidation. So the accounting period of a business may be calendar year or a fiscal year. So what is the difference between calendar year and fiscal year? Please take note. So a calendar year follows the calendar, January, February, March. Meaning to say, if you start your business within January, it always ends between December. Or even if you start November, it always ends December. That is the calendar year. But if you're going to choose the fiscal year, so for example, if you start July, your end period will be on June, as long as maka 12 months ka. Okay? So yun ang pagkakaiba ng calendar year at saka fiscal year. You always follow the calendar. Pag calendar year, sa January yung month 1 mo, December yung month 12 mo. Sa fiscal, kung July ang month 1 mo, ang month 12 mo is sa June ng next year. Okay? So the GAAP or the Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, this time it is principles naman klasa, simultaneously the GAAP also helps management in understanding trends persistent in the company. So management can also compare past and current performance to check the strong and weak points of company operations. So the formulation, development, and modification of the GAAP go through a rigorous process involving professional judgment and research. So due to the rapid advancement of technology, there are new kinds of transactions encountered today that were not present in the past. So the standards followed the accountants in the practice of their professions should also adapt with these changes. Thus, the GAAP is also being developed and improved continuously. So one of the things na medyo apektado po tayo, no, sa accounting natin is the change in the laws. Remember, sa taxation, meron na po tayong law. So, affected ang FAB1, FAB2 doon. Pati yung business mathematics, yung sa trade law. Kasi nag-iiba yung table kung paano mo i-compute yung tax due ng isang employee. So, the International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, are pronounced as issued by the International Accounting Standard Board, IASB, that intend to enhance the comparability of the financial statements of all companies around the world. In light of globalization, the IFRS will provide a way for users of accounting information to easily understand the results of operations of companies all around the globe. So in the past, the function of the IASB is performed by the International Accounting Standards Committee, IASC. The pronouncement of IASC are called International Accounting Standard, IAS. Up to this day, the IASB still adheres to the IAS in addition to their own pronouncement, the IFRS. If you want to know more of this association or committees, you can search the web so that, for example, sa GAAP, kung meron silang bagong policies, you can also update yourself. Okay? You can make further research about this. So in the Philippines, the development of accounting standards that will be used in the country consider pronouncements issued by the USA National Accounting Standard Board and the IASB. The Philippines follows the standard of both IAS and the IFRS. In contrast, USA follows guidelines provided by the GAAP. So take note kung ano ang sinusunod ng Philippines, the IAS and the IFRS. Ito na lang yung i-research ninyo itong dalawa kung mayroong pagbabago. Okay? So the Philippines are fully compliant with the IFRS effective January 2005. So medyo matagal na rin. Kumustahin natin kung ano po ba, may mga pagbabago pa ba, may mga updates pa ba. Okay. So the following factors are considered the decision to adopt the IFRS. So Philippine organization supports international accounting standard, increased internationalization of business, which greatly calls for a common language for financial reporting, improvement of international accounting standards or removal of free choices of accounting treatments, and international accounting standards being recognized by the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and of course, World Trade Organization. So the Philippines Financial Reporting Standard Council issues standards to be used in the Philippines in the form of Philippine Financial Reporting Standards. So meron po tayong sinusunod na standard. Paano ba ninyo gagawin yung inyong financial statement according to the standard? So, ganon. Hindi pwedeng basta bara-bara ang gumawa. Okay? Sabi nga, di ba, it's a system. We need a process. We need to follow certain process. So the PFRS includes all of the following: Philippine Financial Reporting Standards, which corresponds to International Financial Reporting Standards, Philippine Accounting Standards, which corresponds to International Accounting Standards, and interpretations of accounting standards issued by the Philippines Interpretations Committee in accordance with interpretation of the IFRIC in the Standing Interpretations Committee. Okay? And that ends our discussion for week 3. What time is it? Oh, I still have time. So, may question po ba tayo, class? So, yung next session natin will be, kung ito ang gagamitin ko, wait lang pala. So, kung ito ang gagamitin ko, yan, accounting equation na. Ayan. The accounting equation. Tingnan natin kung same doon sa, or isa ito sa mga na-omit. Ayan. So, dito, yes, also, the accounting equation. And the 5 major accounts. So, still belong pa rin naman sa week 3. So, we're done with this, ha? So, may question po ba? Naku, si Bugarin, Antoinette, kapapasok pa lang nila. 36 na lang. So, next meeting, we will discuss the accounting equation, the elements of accounting, the 5 major accounts. Yan. Okay. So, don't forget to, what do you call this? Don't forget to, what do you call this? To memorize in advance. To study the necessary pointers that we need to study in our summative test 1. Next week, summative 2, test 2. Yan, kasama po ito sa ibibigay ko. So, pwede nyo na rin pag-aralan in advance. Yung kaninang diniscuss ko, at saka ito. Okay? Ayan, madami-dami po yan. Kaya magsimula na. Okay? May question po ba? Class, are you still there? So, kung wala na pong question, You can unmute class, ha? Or hindi nyo pwedeng i-unmute. Hello? May question?
Ma'am, wala.
Ayan, very good. Wala namang ng chat na may tanong. So, I hope naintindihan nyo. Nakita nyo naman sa G-class kung saan yung matatagpuan yung diniscuss ko today. That is the PowerPoint presentation before and during the pandemic. Okay? But if you want a thorough and complete, then maybe you should review the presentation before the pandemic. Okay? So that's all, class. Abangan nyo lang sa G-class ninyo kung whatever it is na ipapagawa ko. So once again, summative test ninyo is tomorrow. You have until 11:59. Quizzy po ang gagamitin. Do not ever think of using a dummy account. Mahuhuli at mahuhuli po kayo. Okay? And yun lang. Alam nyo na, please do not cheat. Okay? So that's all. Goodbye and see you next week.